Welcome to JoeSchaeferFlyFishing.com. I'm Joe Schaefer. Today I'm going to start my quick series for you guys on must-have flies for your fly boxes. Starting out with this first one, this is a pattern that I use in many different ways, many different colors. It's the flashback hare's ear. Today I'm going to show you it on a jigged hook. This hook is a TMC 403 BLJ hook. It's a jigged hook. The reason why I like using these hooks, of course, is because they ride upside down, so your hook point is actually up in the water column. So this way, if you're in still waters or rivers, that hook rides up. This is a great little pattern that I use all the time. Quick and simple. I'll show you the materials that we're going to use here. First up, this is a rust color UTC 70 thread. Then we're going to use a small UTC copper wire. We're going to also use a opal medium tinsel. We're going to use Hungarian partridge cape. We're going to use the feathers off of this for the tail. And the last thing is the hare's mask. Now you can get this straight off the mask that comes in these big packages. Cut it off, throw it in a dummy mixer. I'll demonstrate that at another time. But I like using those fibers with the guard hairs and everything in there, all the good stuff to make this a nice bushy fly. This is kind of a catch-all fly. I love flies that have many different uses, and this kind of crosses over and looks like a couple different bug types. So I'm going to start this thread right behind the bead here, building up just a little bit ahead, a little bit of jam knot there. I'm going to work that thread all the way back to just by the bend there. Cut off the excess. Now with this, you can also make these a lot heavier if you want. Some of the bigger waters that I fish with heavier currents, I'll put a little bit of wrap some lead wire on there, things like that to heavy up this fly. But usually in this smaller size, I don't typically put the beads enough. This is a 1.5 slotted tungsten bead, so it's nice and heavy. Great for that fly as your last fly on the bottom. So now we're going to take the cape here and we're going to pull off one feather, and we're going to splay those fibers out, and we're going to pick off a nice good chunk of that for our tail. We don't want our tail too bushy, but we want enough there to distinguish that it's a tail. I'm going to make this about the length of the hook, maybe just a tad bit smaller. I'm going to loose wrap, one wrap, two, make sure my tail's good, and then I'm going to start my thread forward. Tying in that tail, make sure it's good and secure. All the way to the head. That also gives us a little natural taper to the fly already starting out. Next up, I'm going to take a piece of that small copper wire, and we're going to tie that in, making connecting wraps back all the way to where the tail starts there. So we got our wire in there now. Now we're going to take the hare's mask and we're going to pick out the fibers. I like to pick out the fibers here that doesn't have as many guard hairs for the back part of this fly, because I want to be able to tighten that down pretty good. So when I'm putting this dubbing on, I want to make sure it's good and tight, nice sleek body where I can get the taper good. And I'm going to wrap that forward, making sure that I cover all that thread. right to about the 75% point there. Then I'm going to come forward with the wire, and I'm just going to wrap that wire forward, segmenting it. Then when I tie it off here, I'm going to tie put a couple wraps in front, a couple behind. Then I'm going to helicopter that off. And that's the back end of our fly there. So next up, I'm going to tie in a piece of that medium opal tinsel. I'm going to tie that in right up to where I stopped the previous wraps for my hare's mask. And then with this section now, I'm going to select hare's mask that's a little bit bushier, has a lot more guard hairs in it. I want this to be nice and bushy. I want it to look buggy. That's the key to this fly, is it doesn't have to be perfect. You just want to get a nice look on this thorax here. You don't want it too nice and neat. And in fact, we're going to brush that out a little bit. So there we go. Got that nice little thorax there. What I'm going to do is pull that tinsel over the top. I'm going to make a couple wraps. Then I'm going to pull it back over itself to secure it. And I'm going to make some wraps there. I'm going to cut it off, the excess. And then I'm going to whip finish. These jig hooks I tend to whip finish a couple times. I'll do 2 or 3 sets of them, just so that thread stays together, and if it does come undone, there's another whip finish underneath it ready to go. Reason being is these get to the bottom quick, and sometimes that thread will rub on the underneath, and it'll cut that thread, so it'll pull your flies apart. So now we got a good little taper there. You see we have some guard hairs in here. What I'm going to do is use this little tool that has little spikes on the end of it here, and we're going to pull out those sides a little bit, just like we do on a scud. We brush that out a little bit. This tool helps bring those sides out. Now anything that's too long, we're going to trim up a little bit. It gives it a gilly look, leg look, all in one. I'll just touch her up a little bit, and she's ready to go. So that's the jigged flashback hare's ear. Very effective fly. It's the first one in this series that I'll show you. Must have bugs for on the water and in your fly boxes. Thank you and have a great day.